5-Watt World is supported in part by TrueFire. Learn, practice, and play with TrueFire. Hi, this is Keith Williams. Welcome to 5-Watt World. We're interested in helping you get the most music from the least gear. When it sold at auction in 2019 for a world record price, David Gilmour's Black Strat cemented its legacy as one of the most legendary instruments in all history, in the minds of guitar fans everywhere. What was it about this seemingly ordinary guitar from 1969 that would find it in the annals of rock and roll history? Could it be really so simple as what David says in the interviews, that it's just a long list of magical moments played on the guitar?
It's probably been on more Pink Floyd tracks than any other guitar. It's on Money. It's on Comfortably Numb. It's the solos on Comfortably Numb. It's on Shine On You Crazy Diamond. The 4-note bit at the beginning of Shine On, the daddy-ding thing, fell out of that guitar one day. And it's been on my last couple of solo albums, so it's done the course.
You might say that with all the changes to the instrument, that there's a strong argument for the tone is in the hands of the player, and I won't disagree with that. Gilmour would go on to primarily play his red Strat for 20 years, and folks kept showing up to watch him play those original solos. But when he did get the Black Strat back out, there seemed to be something symbiotic in that guitar, in the hands of that guitar player. So if you've been waiting for a short history of that unique guitar, then stay tuned, because this is the 5-Watt World short history of David Gilmour's Black Strat. If you enjoy our videos, make sure to subscribe. And if you've already subscribed, grab a t-shirt or a Stomp preset pack to support what we do. And to become a bigger part of 5-Watt World, sign up for the Friends of 5-Watt on Patreon. The links are in the description. Famously, toward the end of Pink Floyd's third tour of the US, the truck containing all of their gear was stolen. This included a black Stratocaster that Gilmour had bought just weeks before at Manny's Music in New York City when they first arrived in the States. All of the gear, except the guitars, would eventually be recovered. So David's first Strat, white with a rosewood board, and the new black rosewood board Strat would be lost forever. The rest of the tour was canceled. David stopped back in New York on his way back to England to buy a replacement Stratocaster. So just 6 weeks after buying the first black Strat, he was back at Manny's buying another one. This would be his first Strat with a maple fretboard. Under these inauspicious circumstances began the myth of the Black Strat. Bringing a brand new CBS-era Strat, it featured a maple cap fretboard, glued to a maple neck. These maple cap necks were much less common and less popular than the standard rosewood boards of the era, especially since the guitars had low frets. And the maple boards of the first Strats often had their delicate nitro finish worn through quickly. The move to rosewood both handled this problem as well as satisfied the internal opinion at Fender that rosewood made the guitars look more expensive. The guitar had a white pickguard and the large headstock known today as CBS style. It's believed that the guitar was assembled in 69 of parts manufactured in both 68 and 69, as was common with Fender's production at the time. Then it sold at Manny's Music, where Gilmour would ultimately buy the guitar in May of 1970. The guitar's original serial number is 266936, and that places it as having been shipped from Fender in 69. The large reverse F on the neck plate under the serial number is there per the era. Along with this, the original neck would have carried the Gotoh manufactured Clusen-style F-logo tuners of that year as well. Where the paint was eventually worn through on the body, it's clear that it was originally finished in 3-tone sunburst, then oversprayed in custom black at the factory. Worth remembering is that the original electronics would have included a 3-way pickup selector switch, as the 5-way switch wouldn't be implemented on Strats until 1977. The guitar would first be used live at the Festival of Blues and Progressive Music at Bath Showground in June of 1970. The festival drew double the anticipated number of people, with fully 150,000 in attendance. The very next day, the band would play the Kruiligen Pop Festival in Rotterdam, Netherlands. The festival was filmed and released as Stamping Ground, and this is the first video footage of David playing the Black Strat live. David always considered the Black Strat as his workhorse guitar, and as such, it was subjected to a long line of modifications. Over the course of its life, it would be fitted with no fewer than 6 different necks, several different pickup sets, and a number of other significant changes. We won't be able to cover every detail, but I'll outline the most important ones as well as some of the fun ones. Interestingly, it was not love at first sight with the Black Strat, and David experimented with other Strats around this time. Steve Marriott from Humble Pie gave David a Strat with a 59 Sunburst body and a 63 Rosewood neck. He didn't love the Sunburst guitar as a whole, but he really liked the necks, so he would eventually swap the necks between the Sunburst and the Black Strat, then carrying the Sunburst with the maple cap neck as a spare on the road. That August, the band would play a show in Saint-Tropez that was filmed by French television. For that show, he played a late 60s white Strat with a rosewood fingerboard. He'd later stripped that guitar down to a natural finish. In May of '71, the band headlined a show at the Crystal Palace Bowl in London. At this show, David was back to using the Black Strat with its original maple cap neck. He would famously play the guitar in that exact same configuration at Live at Pompeii on October 7, 1971. This set was recorded around the release of Echoes, and to the point Pink Floyd's most successful album having gone platinum in the United States, and he'd be released closer to the debut of Dark Side of the Moon, rocketing the visibility of Floyd and by extension Gilmour with his Black Strat. The high quality of the video, coupled with the Floyd craze, would alone be enough to make the guitar a piece of rock history. With concert volumes what they were, and his heavy use of 70s effects, David was always fighting noise, so that one of the first things to be done was to add copper foil to the pickguard and pickup cavity to act as additional grounding points for the wiring harness. These efforts were also all there to help with shielding. On a trip back to the States in '72, David bought another brand new Black Strat. This would be the third Black Strat David bought at Manny's Music. As a '72 model, it had a 3-bolt neck plate with the micro tilt adjustment and the bullet truss rod on a maple cap neck. The guitar proved to be less stable for tuning and was only used intermittently that year. David even went so far as to take a hacksaw to the large headstock to make it more like the small headstock of the rosewood neck. The guitar fell out of use, but the pickup assembly would eventually be removed and installed in the Black Strat. He'd play the original Black Strat and the Black Bullet Strat at the premiere performance of Dark Side of the Moon on the last night of a 4-night sellout run at the London Rainbow Theatre. Dark Side of the Moon was one of, if not the best-selling album of the 1970s, selling 45 million total units and being certified 15 times over platinum in the US alone. Though he preferred maple fretboards, Gilmour much preferred the neck profile and small headstock of the neck from the Sunburst Strat, so in June of '72, he'd swap the necks, including swapping the neck plates with the serial numbers. He'd leave the rosewood fingerboard neck on the Black Strat until 1978. He also removed the late 60s Gotoh F-style tuners and installed more stable Shalers. Around this time, he'd have an additional switch installed so that he could add the neck pickup to either the middle or bridge position on the 3-way selector switch. In January of '73, David would have an original PAF humbucking pickup installed in the Black Strat between the bridge and middle pickups. The additional switch on the guitar would now be used to turn on the PAF. He'd used the guitar that way through spring and early summer shows ending in June of '73. For a short tour of the States that June, he'd moved back to the standard wiring using the pickups from the Bullet Strat. The Black Strat would then remain in that form until the following June, when he would use the guitar for the last time with a white pickguard. Sometime in the early summer of '74, David would install the black pickguard, leaving the white control knobs and pickup covers. Finally, the guitar had morphed into the configuration that we all associate with it today. Pink Floyd's Animals was recorded between April and November of '76 at their new studio, which was constructed within their sound and light storage warehouse in Islington, North London. David had acquired a DiMarzio FS1 pickup and installed it in the bridge of the Black Strat along with the late 60s pickups from the Bullet Strat. He preferred the sound of the DiMarzio and he used it throughout the Animal Support tour. He'd used the guitar in that form right through his first solo album, along with the Sunburst Strat with the Black's original maple neck and with his Esquire. I reached out to TrueFire to be my sponsor because I've used them for years. With over 2 million users worldwide, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced level player, TrueFire has lessons to enhance and inspire your playing. Get 35% off courses using the promo code 5watt35, or like I do, sign up for the All Access Pass to use the entire TrueFire catalog. I really like TrueFire, and I think if you give them a shot, you'll like them too. Sign up now to start your journey to being a better guitarist. I'd like to thank TrueFire for their support in making this video. By 77, the rosewood board neck was getting quite worn, and despite preferring maple, he'd been playing the rosewood board neck for over 6 years on tour and in the studio at that point. He ordered a new bird's eye maple neck from Grover Jackson, who'd recently purchased Charvel's Guitar Parts Supply Company. The neck was ordered with a heavier than standard truss rod and a fender decal on the headstock. The neck was ready and installed in late summer of 78. A switch for turning on the neck pickup was again installed on the pickguard, as it had been there back in 72. The rosewood neck was moved back to the Sunburst guitar. The Wall was recorded between October 78 and October 79, giving Pink Floyd their second mega hit of the 70s. In late 79, after The Wall had been completed, Seymour Duncan sent a custom pickup to David to try in the bridge of the Black Strat. He preferred it to the sound of the DiMarzio, and the pickup would stay in place until the guitar was sold at auction. In 82, the Black Strat was fitted with a new bird's eye maple one-piece 22-fret neck. The fingerboard on this neck was also slightly flatter radius than the vintage Stratocaster 7 1/4. Like before, it was ordered with a fender decal on the headstock and here Kluson vintage-style tuners. In 83, a new Kahler tremolo system, designed by Steve Story, was fitted to the Black Strat. To do this, a portion of wood had to be removed from behind the original bridge. According to David's longtime guitar tech, Phil Taylor, no consideration was given to whether this might change the sound of the guitar. So with the Kahler in place, along with the 22-fret neck and a new set of Gotoh tuners, they went off to record David's second solo record, About Face. It was during this time of experimentation that some of the trem arms were shortened to fit more comfortably in David's hand while picking. It's worth noting that the present-day standard trems are longer than what came standard in the 60s bridge, and the Gilmour arms are shorter yet. You can get all three different lengths from the wonderful people at Callahan Custom Parts. In 83, Fender was under new management and had embarked on making reissues of their landmark guitars, including the 57 Strat-style necks that Gilmour favored. Gilmour went with his tech, Phil Taylor, out to Arbiter's warehouse and selected as many as 5 guitars. A cream Strat from the batch of 57 reissues became his favorite guitar for the About Face tour, but afterwards was displaced by a candy apple red Strat from the same batch. During this time, the Black Strat was used in drop D tuning for a few tunes on the tour. The guitars were stock with the exception of the shortened tremolo arms that he had begun using. And as David was playing the reissue Strats by then, a 5-way switch was finally fitted to the Black Strat in 1985. The Red Strat became David's main guitar for nearly 20 years and was loaded with EMG pickups and an active preamp circuit. To learn more about that guitar, see the full video on David's guitars on my channel. In August of 1986, the Hard Rock Cafe asked if they could obtain one of David's guitars for display. In exchange for the loan, the Hard Rock made a donation to the Nordhoff Robbins Music Therapy Center charity. As the Black Strat wasn't being used at the time, Gilmour agreed to loan it to them on a semi-permanent basis. After the paperwork was in order, the guitar was shipped to the U.S. and put on display at the beginning at the Hard Rock Cafe in Dallas, Texas. When David got around to asking for the guitar back, it had been hanging on the wall of one Hard Rock Cafe or another for over 10 years. At first, the people at Hard Rock didn't seem to know that the guitar had been on loan. They rather thought they had owned the guitar. After the paperwork was produced to prove the loan, not purchase, the guitar was shipped back to England. Sadly, the guitar was returned in very poor condition and without the original black hardshell case. The guitar had been on display at the Hard Rock in Miami, in a case without a glass front, at eye level above a table. There was damaged and missing parts, so the guitar went straight off to Charlie Chandler's to be repaired. They wanted to put it back into the original condition for David to play the guitar. The Kahler was removed and the routing was filled in. The original Fender tremolo was refitted and the Charvel neck was removed and a new 57 reissue neck, like the ones David had been playing on the Red Strat, was put in its place. Though the guitar was again ready to use, David would play it only rarely until 2003. The Black Strat came back as the main guitar in 2005 when the band was prepping for their appearance on Live 8. During the rehearsals, it was suggested that he try the Black Strat to play the old songs, so David set down his red guitar with its EMGs and picked up the Black Strat. David's guitar tech, Phil Taylor, was there and described the moment this way. David's guitar sound instantly ascended to what can only be described as another level. His body language changed, becoming animated and interacting with the guitar as if he had just discovered an old, long-lost friend. Due to a few low frets and the need to use the guitar to keep working on an island, they swapped the neck from the cream 1983-57 reissue guitar that Gilmour had used in 83-84. With this final neck swap, the black Strat was ready to play out the final chapters in Gilmour's hands. Having refused Fender's request to issue replicas of the black Strat over the years, he finally relented in 2006. Mike Eldred, then head of the custom shop and Fender master builder Todd Krause, went to England to take the necessary measurements to start the prototyping process. The first prototypes arrived in England of 2007, and David gave the team his feedback, including trying multiple sets of pickups in the guitar to find the best match. In 2008, the original black Strat was taken to the custom shop in Corona so that Todd Krause could spend 3 days with the guitar. In the end, they produced 2 models. One in the state of relicking the guitar was in at 2007, and another new old stock condition without the relicking. 2 final prototypes of each style were built, one set staying at the custom shop and the other pair being given to Gilmour. As I've used David's string gauges myself, I believe the strings are a critical part of David's tone formula. The way the black Strat was strung changed over the years, and in itself an interesting detail. Originally, David used Gibson's Sonomatic strings, but when Ernie Ball made it possible to purchase individual strings in the 70s, David began using a custom set of gauges: 10, 12, 16, 28, 38, and 48. Gilmour would use Ernie Ball strings through the decade. While working on the wall, David happened to buy a guitar that was strung with GHS boomers, which he really liked, and eventually GHS began producing a custom David Gilmour set of strings in his traditional gauges. As I've become a student of guitar picks as well, I'll mention that around that time of the wall, David began using a smaller teardrop-shaped pick with a sharp point, though he did go back to using Herco gray heavy picks during the On an Island tour. David Gilmour and his band had a sold-out 5-night run at London's Royal Albert Hall in September of 2016. This was at the end of the Rattle That Lock tour and would be David's final performance with the black Strat. Always a workhorse, and a guitar that evolved with its player over the course of its useful life. When brought out of retirement, it clearly still lit a fire inside of David Gilmour. That's the part of the history that makes me smile the most. Ultimately, we use guitars to make music, and what makes a guitar special isn't how good it is on paper or how skilled its user might be in the abstract. David Gilmour played the black Strat on several of the best-selling albums of all time, and the reach of this particular Stratocaster may be immeasurable. But what is not in doubt is that these songs, these albums made by this guitar, have enriched the lives of millions of people. If I missed your favorite detail of the story of the black Strat, be sure to leave it in the comments wherever you enjoy. I need to thank my good friend and longtime collaborator Jeff McErlain for sharing his playing on his late 60s style Landau Fender Custom Shot Strat. Gilmour is one of Jeff's favorite players, and he just picked up that guitar. Sure you'll agree he's already putting it to good use. I need to thank Bjorn Reese from the amazing Gilmourish website and YouTube channel. I had Bjorn on as a guest at the live stream when the original Guitars of David Gilmour video came out, so go check out that video and see the link to his channel there or here. This video would not have been possible without Phil Taylor's book, The Black Strat. As Gilmour's guitar tech, Taylor was quite literally there when much of this took place, and there is no substitute for first-hand experience. I need to thank my script editor, Perry McManus, who is always down for the story of a great Stratocaster. Most importantly, I need to thank all of you that have gone to the store to buy some t-shirts, hoodies, or a Stomp preset pack. And a thank you in particular to the friends of 5 Watt on Patreon. You are all 5 Watt World. I just make the videos. Until next time, this is Keith Williams. Thanks for being a part of the 5 Watt World.